Hello and welcome to episode 16 of Watercolour Whizz. This is a September issue, and what we're going to paint today is this lovely raven. Isn't he gorgeous? And I just love the beautiful sort of iridescent plumage he's got, which is in sort of hues of blue and very sort of dulled violet. But what we're going to do, we're just going to be using two colours today, two complements, and they are the Inland Throne Blue, or any sort of navy blue with a bit of violet in it, and quinacridone rust, or any sort of burnt sienna rust colour, and they are roughly opposite each other on the colour wheel. Okay, so we won't get every hue in the raven, but we're just gonna see how well we can do with just those two colours. Okay, and it'll make us focus on the tones, you know, where the strongest light and dark is on the bird. Okay, so right, in my posterised grayscale image, which by the way I supply to you along with the reference image and my outline and my supplies list and everything on my Patreon site, there's a link to join that in the description below this video. Okay, so you might want to check that out. In this grayscale image you can see that we've got areas of, you know, darker tone under the neck, under the body there. And then the lighter tone is where the wings are catching the light, and then there's a bit of dark tone there with this tail is casting a shadow onto the tail bit there. So all of this is worth considering before you start, okay? Because without the contrast of light, areas and shade, everything would look flat, okay? And monotonous, meaning monotone, one tone, okay? So let's get our bird underway. And first of all, I've got about a size 6 brush here. I'm going to put some water in the middle of this little tray, this little palette. Enough water to try and paint the whole inside of the bird. So again, this is a good practice for your judgment, how much water you need. I've got that much. I think I might need a bit more. It's hard to tell you how much it is, isn't it? Maybe it's a thimbleful. Okay, let's add some Inland Throne Blue, beautiful colour. So that colour now, and then what we'll have as well is a little bit of quinacridone burnt orange, and that sort of knocks it back. Let's have a little bit more. I do this in very small increments so that I don't end up getting too much towards the brown side of the spectrum. Okay, so I'm dulling it because these two colours will dull each other, but not in a flat way. They'll neutralise each other, and they'll yield a lovely sort of rich sort of colour, which is a mixture of the rust and the blue. Whereas if I went for like a grey colour, it would be very flat in tone. So I'm getting this colour all over the bird now. Again, if you've been watching me on Watercolour Whizz, you might like to have, you know, masked out a little buffer margin all around the bird so that you won't have to be as careful as I'm being now to not go outside the lines. It's up to you. I don't do it every single time, but it's very helpful. If you've got a wobbly hand, you know, if you find it hard to keep your hand steady, then painting that margin around is really great. You can go at it gung-ho then, you know, and put more sort of feeling into it. So just putting this colour all over the bird now. And I'm going to move the bird, you know, to suit my brush angle and my painting sort of angle. He's got a little bit of sort of fluffy, frothy, tufty feathers in his undercarriage there. So I'm going to, I'm going to try and paint those. I could be using a finer brush actually, but I'm just going to stick to all one brush now just to keep this simple for you. We can always add more tufty bits later on. Go down into the legs at this point as well, and then all down into the tail feathers. Another tip, if you want to give yourself more painting time, you know, more time to get this colour on before it starts drying as it's doing up there, so I'm just going to re-wet it with some more colour because I want it to stay moist for a while because I've got to do some darkening. You could have wet the whole bird, so if you'd wet the whole bird first and then you put this colour on, you know, you'll have more time to add colour without the watercolour drying out in any areas where you might not want it to dry out yet. It all depends on how you want to paint and what your painting preferences are. Right, so I've nearly got him all done now, and I'm going to just bring the blue down into the feet, get these little knobbly, scaly feet done with some blue on. I'm trying to do this quite quickly because I want to be able to put some shadow on the raven before he dries to start getting some form on his body even at this early stage. I loved the stance of this bird, the way he's sort of looks as if he's in a sort of defensive stance. Right, now quickly now I want to add some more indent thrown blue, stronger, and some more quinacridone burnt orange, and mix it all through, you know, all through, so you've got the difference in contrast. And now I'm going to drop in the darks where I see them, okay? Now obviously they'll bleed a little bit, don't panic. You're painting wet into wet now, okay? Because when I say don't panic, it's because we can lift out anything that's gone a bit awry with a thirsty brush, which I'll show you in a moment. But for now, that leg is much darker, isn't it? So let's get some dark under there. The darker area in between those tails there to there. See, so we're starting to get a bit of form. Then on the back, there's some, so I'm just going to go like that, sort of a bit of a speckled movement there. Now we'll do all the fiddly bits later, but I just wanted to get the main stuff going there, the main darks. All of this distant claw is darker than the near one, so I'll just paint this all darker blue. I'll show you now, see the moisture. You've got to work quick to get that darker tone in before it dries. These feet, the near foot has got more tonal contrast. It's not all very dark, so I'm just going to do a little bit of dark under the feet, under the claw, but leave the top parts of them a bit paler, because that foot has got a bit of light on it. Okay, right, finally what I'd like to do now is take that away and pick up some indent thrown blue, it's not very runny, and some quinacridone burnt orange again, and go it's that sort of consistency, okay, and go for a final kill of really strong dark under there. I'm using the last hair of my brush to get that sort of tufty look. right under the neck. There's very dark under there. This helps shape our bird. All there. And tapers away under the eye a bit. Right, so we've got that now. I'll just finish off this back leg and foot. Right, okay, so I'm just going to let everything dry now, and when we come back we can start putting in further dark lines, but they'll be much more controlled. I'm just going to put it there. Yeah, I'll leave all that till it's dry now. Right, one more thing we could do just before it dries too much is get a thirsty brush. I've got a small flat Matthew Palmer thirsty brush which I moisten first, then dry it on a cloth. And then I'm going to lift out, let me zoom in here. Lift out that highlight on the beak. It'll probably seep back in. So I've got to rinse, dry my brush again and do it again. And there's a bit of a highlight there as well, separating the top beak from the bottom beak. I've rinsed again, wipe again, because it keeps flowing back in. Until the paint starts to dry, which can take a few minutes, it'll keep seeping back in whatever lifts you do. So, but I just want to get a bit of a highlight there so I can do more with it later on. Okay, and just to show you what you could do as well, say these real highlights here, 1, 2, see this one separating this top bit of the wings from the tail. We can just, lift those out. See? Like that. Just lift it out, rinse your brush again and dry your brush again on an absorbent cloth. I find microfiber cloths are not as good as your old, sort of towel type cloths, alright? Then down here, I think it's about there. There's a nice highlight there. And it sort of curves over a little bit. Okay. The thirsty brush is a lovely tool, isn't it? And there's a bit of a curve on there as well. Now we'll make more of those in the next stage, but just to show you. Let's look at my beak just before I go off. Yeah, let's just suck that up again, right in there where the beak joins the face. Take that highlight out again. Right. Now there he is at stage 1, so let everything dry, probably at least half an hour. If you want to, you can lift it up and just dry it from the back gently with a hairdryer. And then dry it on the top. I always dry from the back first because otherwise you can risk scorching the paint. Okay, see you when this is dry. Okay, we're bone dry. So what I'm going to do now is use a small brush. I've got a size 1 here, quite a small one. Moistening that. And now I'm going to pick up the same colour we've just, been using, that very dark blue-brown. Adding a little bit more water to it. I'd say that's a pigmented mix, okay, in strength. And a good way to sort of test it is just to see what its colour's looking like there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is spend some time now painting in what I can see of the plumage. Alright, so things like, you know, these little ticks, you know, that are going across his back there. I want to get sort of a bank of those in, and they come down to a sort of V, and then they go up onto the top of him on the right hand side, and as they get over here they are bigger. Okay, so I'm doing this sort of calligraphic marks to suggest his plumage, and then reducing them then to sort of like little ticks and dots when I get in the middle, so it's not so set all over. And then this sort of like scooped arcs, slightly arced markings where his neck joins his head, joins his body. So that I'm indicating with these marks as well. And we can see more of those sort of marks going up his head. They're getting finer and finer as they go to the top of his head. And there's a darker area just in front of his eye there, where this sort of becomes feathery. And there's this little mound of feathers on the top of his beak, which extends onto his beak, like that. Zoom in now. So then under the, let's paint that a bit more. And it sort of feathers away like that. Then there's a dark edge to that top beak there, and then that pitters out, and then underneath all of the beak, apart from a little slither of light, is dark again. So it's like very thin slivers of light against dark, dark against light, to form the bird's beak, the raven's beak. Pick up some more colour again now. His eye is a dark crescent, and there's an area of light in it, so I'm going to leave the area of light in. Then there's a very fine gap of light and another little arc under his eye, and then all of this is quite dark as well. I'm going to leave, now I'll take the dark from the top of his eye into his plumage on his head as well, and take that over. So all of that is dark in there. And the feathers from his nose sort of extend over the beak a bit more, so this is quite fine, dainty work now. And then where his beak will sort of hinge, that's where it starts to get dark again there. I'm picking up more blue. I feel I've made that bit, there's a bit of a bulge under the beak there which I don't want, so I'm straightening it out. And more dark now, but I'm leaving that little pale crescent under the eye, and then I'm doing practically dry brush now as I come over the raven's head. Right, more of that same colour now. Let's move down onto these feathers. Just have a look now. If you're stuck and you need to look at the reference photo again, please do. And if you've got the outline, you might want to look at the outline again. I think I've messed that one up there. But again, I'm not doing a sort of a botanical, you know, sort of study. I'm just doing an impression of a bird. So for me, I'm not worried about getting it exactly right. It depends what you want from your painting. If you are painting for, you know, precision and to recognise the bird, then you'll want to paint it exactly. But I'm painting it in a more, in a looser way, in a more impressionistic way. So I'm putting all these lines in, and don't worry because we're going to soften them in a moment. I'm just going to turn the bird this way so I can get a better angle on these pointy ones that come in like that. And there's more here. So we've got all that sort of thing going on, okay? While we've got that colour on, we could put a few little crescents and sort of knobbled feel, scaly feel on the foot with this sort of dry brush work, just sort of little crescents, arcs going over the foot in some places. Small, very small brushwork this is, and we'll re-darken it as well because it would be getting no light on the floor there, and up in that cleft between the back claw and the front two claws. Sharp, make that sharp, that claw, sharpen that one up, make that one sharp. That's looking a bit floppy, so I'm going to fatten the actual toe a bit more and then sharpen that toe. Zoom in a little bit more. Okay. Right, so we've put some texture on now, but I still feel that I need to do a bit more work on the head because there's a palish area there. There's a bit of a dark arc there, isn't there? So let's get that dark arc there and scratchy dry brushing down away from that. So I'm just blending that out. And there's definitely that, I'm adding a bit more water to my dark blue mix. There's definitely that stronger shadow down there, which I'm trying to fan across like that. Trying to blend it in. And then I'm just going to work sort of dry brush then across that paler area. Right. So what I'd like to do now is pick up, I'm adding more water to this mix now, just a lot more dilute, and now I'd like to come along and just, that's too dark, right, much more water, add about 5 more brushfuls of water to that, mix it all through, so we've got that sort of a dilution blue, okay, and brush it all over now, what you've just been painting. And, you know, go back and forth a bit to break up some of those lines, which might be a bit too drawn looking. So by doing this, you're reactivating the paint and you're dislodging that line work that I just did a bit. It's just softening it a bit, keeping the distinctions of any of the bright highlights you've done if you can manage it. Again, if you can't, we can always go back in with a thirsty brush and lift them back out again. Okay, and now you can see that blue is picking up there, isn't it? You know, the blue. So we got the sort of very dark area, then the bluey tone that we had in our reference photo. Again, with this ever so slightly damp brush, I'm just dragging over the plumage marks, the feather directions a bit with this just subtly damp brush, and it just beds them in a bit more, and my direction is going in the direction in which the feathers sit. And there's our raven. Well, I've enjoyed painting him, and just one more thing, if you want to push it even further, a little bit more detail, you can come along with a bigger flat brush. I use flat brushes that are thin, you know, some of them are quite clumpy. I don't want that, I want a thin one, and that will then allow me to, say, lift out a feather detail, cut, and give a bit of detail on the feather. Let's try and lift out a bit here. 1, 2, maybe lift out this one. It acts like an eraser. So there, because this shoulder here is the lightest part of the bird, so we can always wipe some paint off after we've painted it all on to get nice contrast and believability. Okay, so you can go on fussing with this as long as you like. I might lift out a little bit more paleness there that I'm seeing on the raven's face in my grayscale. Again, this is a thirsty brush, there's hardly any, you know, I'm rinsing it and wiping it very well, but it's just got that little bit of absorbancy, that's the word, absorbency, right? And you know what I might do just to finish now, oh sorry, is go in on that beak. You can see on my grayscale it really comes in, doesn't it? And we must do a bit more of a highlight on the eye. So I'm using my fingers like a scissors and shaping the tip of my brush so it's really sharp. Let's go, I'm using it almost perpendicular. Press, 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 press. Checking how far I've gone in with the edge of his mouth. I don't want to go in too far. Just want that to show up a bit more. Yeah. Now I've got a mark there where I didn't want one, so I'm going back for a small brush, picking up some colour and just covering that over a little bit. Just doing a bit of healing there with the brush. Okay, right, now for this tiny little spot, now you might think, well, how the heck are we going to get that back to any sort of white? And the answer is you can use a very fine tipped scalpel, or you can use a pin. I'm going to use a pin. Little pin there, okay. So I want to get this, so a bit more of the white in there and these little white moisture rims around the eye. So let's see if I can zoom in closer. Right, that's the best I can do. So I'm going to pick away. So it's got a bit of white there. And then pick away again. There, it's not bad, is it? And maybe make that white area a bit bigger. Okie doke. Right, you know what, I'm going to stop while the going's good. So there's your raven. I hope you've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed painting him. And thanks for watching Watercolour Whizz. As I say, if you want to join my Patreon, which is a monthly watercolour club, you get monthly prompts and tutorials, and this is a way of sort of keeping your momentum going, giving you single skills to learn in each tutorial so that you can hone certain skills. There's a nice little group we've got as well. We'll have a Google gallery every month where you can upload your images and everybody comments or not, or just likes them, and you can see how your fellow artists are doing, so you don't feel so alone in your study of watercolour. Also, if you'd like to give this video a thumbs up, clicking the little thumb icon, that would be really great. And finally, if you want to leave a comment about this video, then if you mention the words Watercolour Whizz, that really sort of helps with my ratings. Okay, so thanks ever so much for watching. I hope that's encouraged you to go out now and try a raven, a blackbird, a jackdaw, you know, any of the sort of birds with black plumage. You can do so much with just 2 colours, can't you? Right, I'm Alison Fennell, the Pottering Artist. See you in next month's Watercolour Whizz.